this business of spices, and he grew his business to a £75 million turnover business. On his death, the business went into a 10-year legal battle. His family fell apart completely. He was fighting with his mother and his sisters. It was public humiliation for the whole family. The legal bill came into millions and millions of pounds, and in the end the whole business was sold to a competitor. But can you see how this was a family that made dunya their abode? And even though they had a 75 million, every year these guys were turning over 75 million pounds, it just wasn't enough for them, and they wanted more. The answer, it's because it was contaminated. It was contaminated by dunya, and it gave them humiliation, it gave them unrest, and it gave them greed. Another example that we're all probably very familiar is the example of the Ambani brothers. Their father died in 2003. Their empire was so big it made 3.5% of India's GDP, and India growing at the rate that it is growing at the moment means that these guys are set to become some of the richest people in the world, certainly some of the richest Indians in the world. I think it's one of the brothers as well. He's building the largest mansion within India with multiple stories and hundreds of quarters for his servants. But when their father died in 2003, they have been embroiled in this bitter battle, brothers fighting each other, fighting their mother, and again the public humiliation was there when this was reported by all the press. But can you all see how it was the greed for money that made them fight with each other? Had they been in poverty, none of this would have happened. Or had their abode been the akhirah and the dunya was secondary, this would have never happened to them. Listen carefully to the hadith again. If your main concern is dunya, Allah will not give you peace of mind, and Allah will put poverty between your eyes, and you will only get what has been destined for you. Ibn Nahas, who's one of the traditional scholars, quotes on this concept of wealth. He says wealth is not the amount of money that you have. He says it is a feeling of contentment and satisfaction that exists in the heart. It's that point where you are content. So it doesn't mean having millions and millions of pounds or dollars within your accounts. What it means is that you have got so much that you are not greedy anymore. You are tranquil and satisfied, and you're not hungry after money. It doesn't play on your mind. And this is exactly what it says in the hadith. If you make your concern the akhirah, Allah will give you the peace of mind, which is what Ibn Nahas quoted as being wealth, and give you contentment in your heart, and dunya will follow you. You will get the same amount of wealth that you had before. Allah Ta'ala will not take your wealth away from you. But if you make your abode the akhirah, then that wealth will follow you. And a good example of this is if we have a look at the Ashra Mubashr. These were the people that in this dunya, they were guaranteed paradise. They were told in the dunya, you are someone who will go into paradise. I mean, for a Muslim, this is the best news that you could possibly receive. And there's many people that if you make a dua for them, and they hear that someone has made dua for them that they'll go into paradise, they'll just weep because they understand that this is one step that they're getting closer to paradise. And it's just too much for them to be able to hold their emotions in. Of the Ashra Mubashr, who were 10 people, 3 of them, thus 30% of the Ashra Mubashr, were extremely wealthy. And they were Abu Bakr Siddiq, Uthman ibn Affan, and Abdurrahman ibn Auf. All these 3 Sahabi were people who were extremely wealthy. Abdurrahman ibn Auf, he was the most richest of all the Sahaba. On doing Hijrah, he left all his wealth back in Mecca and he went to Medina. And he didn't accept any handouts or any charity. He just simply said, show me where the nearest market is, show me where the souk is. He went over there and he was very successful in trade. So much so that they used to say that if he lifted a stone, he would find gold under it. Abdurrahman ibn Awf's wealth was so much that one day the city of Medina was shaking, and people feared that this was an earthquake about to hit the city, so they all came out to see, to try and escape this earthquake. And what they found was that there was clouds of dust everywhere, and so they suspected the sandstorm. So as they came out of the city to be able to try and escape this, what they saw was there was hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of camels that were coming into Medina, and they were absolutely filled with goods. And all of these camels and all the goods that was on these camels belonged to Abdurrahman ibn Awf. That is how much wealth he had, that he could have so many camels that would make the city of Medina shake. Now, this is the modern day equivalent of being in the Forbes top 100. This is how much wealth he had. Yet Abdurrahman ibn Awf's wealth is one of the few things that we hear about. The reason being that Allah Ta'ala made the dunya chase him. This rizq was destined for him. This was not going to change. But the rizq pursued him. And even Abdurrahman ibn Awf is known for his knowledge of Quran and his transmission of hadith, and his commitment to the deen. His wealth was significant because this is what Allah Ta'ala destined for him, and it never humiliated him. In fact, it pursued him around saying, I'm your wealth, come and take me. This is also true for Uthman ibn Affan. Uthman ibn Affan was so wealthy, he was from the nobility of Quraysh, that in the summer months they wouldn't even spend their time in Mecca. There was such a prestigious tribe that they would go to Ta'if, and it was in Ta'if that Uthman ibn Affan was born. Uthman ibn Affan's father, Affan, actually died when Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was very young, but left Uthman ibn Affan an inheritance. Uthman became a trader just like his father did, and he grew the business significantly, and the business flourished. Uthman ibn Affan became what was in them days a millionaire, and he was one of the most richest people from one of the most noblest tribes of Quraysh. And the most famous of the Ashra Mubashir, and someone who's well known for his wealth, was Abu Bakr Siddiq. Abu Bakr Siddiq's wealth was so, his respect was so much that even at the first hijrah of the Muslims to Abyssinia, he was protected by local tribesmen, and so didn't have to make hijrah. But Abu Bakr Siddiq's business and his intelligence and social importance was so much so that even though Abu Bakr Siddiq's father was alive, he was made the chief of the tribe, and people would come to him to ask questions, resolve disputes, because he'd proved himself both in business sphere and in social sphere. And who is this? Not just a successful businessman, not just a person who is respected and loved by everyone, not someone who's even taken the responsibility of chief of a tribe while his father's alive. This is Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. He is the first person after all the Anbiya that is going to enter Jannah. But yet he is also someone who's successful in the dunya. This is exactly in line with the hadith where Rasulullah ﷺ says that if you make your concern the akhirah, that Allah will give you peace of mind and content in your heart, and the dunya will follow you. Just like it did with these three Ashra Mubashir that were guaranteed Jannah, He has given them wealth in the dunya, just like He did with the Imam Abu Hanifa as well, giving him tremendous wealth, but the wealth followed them around. My dear Muslim brothers and sisters, what I would like to say to you is, for success in the dunya, for success in the akhirah, embrace Islam, come closer to Islam, and be the best Muslims that you can be. Develop the Islamic personality, because if you fail to develop the Islamic personality, you will fail in the dunya, because you will be in a mind of poverty. You will fail in the akhirah, because you will go into Jahannam, and you will fall into the trap of Iblis, and Iblis would have succeeded over you. Allah loves His slaves so much